Welcome, everybody, to a Tuesday night edition of the Glen Kuiper Show. We wanted to wait till that final postseason game ended with the Yankees just defeating the Toronto Blue Jays. Last out just made. And so we are set to go with another fun-filled baseball-related show tonight here on the Glen Kuiper Show. We have a very special guest who we will get to in just a little bit, one of my favorite baseball sports writers in all the Bay Area, and we'll introduce him in just a little bit. But we'll talk about the Giants' managerial search, the season that ended, the postseason that's going on right now. We'll talk about the future of Major League Baseball, a lot of good things, a few things that we're a little scared about. We'll talk about the A's season in Sacramento. How did it go, and how is that going? How is that situation going to end up? And then we'll talk about the great Willie Mays. But before we introduce our guests, we have to get to our sponsors. The Glen Kuiper Show is brought to you by Tilden Properties. As an investor, one of the best places to put your money is California's multi-family real estate. By investing with Tilden Properties, you'll see quarterly dividends and equity buildup in the real estate market. Tilden Properties, Bay Area based and family owned. Give them a call at 925-209-8558 and check out their website and look at their portfolio. It is very, very impressive. TildenProperties.com. They're always looking for investors. In fact, they're looking for some investors right now. You want to get involved, no question about it. Also brought to you by the Carrig Real Estate Team since 1978. This team has been helping families buy and sell homes across the Bay Area with a legacy of client-first service. Whether you're moving up, downsizing, or making that first home purchase, trust the Carrig Real Estate Team to take you home. Contact Mike Carrig today for a free home sale or purchase consultation. Give Mike a call at 925-548-4132. The website is carrigteam.com. And we are also brought to you by Valone Insurance. Are you tired of being overcharged on your property insurance? Valone Insurance has multiple options for your home and landlord properties. Save big money on your property insurance. Call Kyle or Ron at Valone Insurance, 925-433-8271. All right, so let's bring in our guest again. He's one of the Bay Area's best baseball writers. He's been doing this job for a very long time, and not only a terrific writer, but an all-around good guy, one of my favorite people. Let's bring in John Shea. John, are you there? There he is.
I'm here, and you're too kind, Glenn.
Yeah, thank you, John. Of course, John, we know from many, many years at the San Francisco Chronicle, but now John is with the San Francisco Standard. And John, before we get into all the stuff we're going to talk about, I wanted to give you a chance to maybe explain to people a little bit about the San Francisco Standard that you're working for now and what it's all about.
Oh, boy. Absolutely love it. I was offered a job there. I gave my notice. It wasn't one of those things, well, what are the pros? What are the cons? It just seemed to be the right fit at the right time. And I was so impressed with the resources and the motivation and the trust and the camaraderie. And it just, man, I'm doing what the kids are doing. It's internet. It's all online.
Yeah.
No newspaper. Loved newspapers. I worked newspapers since I was a teenager. First time in my life I'm not at a newspaper. I absolutely love the format. It's gorgeous online at sfstandard.com. This is a little competition. I don't know if I should say it on the Glen Kuiper Show, but we just launched a new podcast today with the great Carrie Crowley. Yes, coming up every Tuesday and Friday. And
that's great.
He interviewed Buster Posey on day one. So, yeah, it's going places. It's smart. It's clean. It's fresh. It's not just sports. There are no pop-up ads. It's news. It's food and wine. It's politics. It's all San Francisco. It's the Bay Area. It's pretty widespread, and just love the ability to kind of call my shots, but working under the umbrella of it's like a dream team, Glenn. I never worked with Tim Kawakami.
Yeah, Tim's awesome. Yep.
Oh man, always respected him and admired him from across the room. And Carrie Crowley, who was the kid beat writer not too long ago, and Danny Emmerman the same, and they worked themselves up. and now I work side by side with them. Lombardi on the 49ers, very tactical, very precise in what he does. So it's quite the group, and we're adding a Valkyrie's writer, and
Okay.
so the staff is growing, and I think we have 60, 70 people in the newsroom overall. And it's, just from the people I work with who tell me and talk about it publicly, it's just something that was needed in the Bay. And it's such a joy to be a part of this. I mean, it's been around for several years, but they just added a sports staff about a year ago.
Yep.
And they didn't really have a baseball writer. So at the Chronicle, there's 150 years of information in the morgue. You just go down there, you call it up, you do your search, you find anything. But now the morgue is everything I've written so far.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool and refreshing.
What was the move to the Standard? I mean, how much was the fact that, listen, the San Francisco Chronicle is still a very good newspaper, but the newspaper business is struggling. Everybody knows it. It's not the way it used to be. People don't sit with a newspaper. I mean, when I was on the road, my favorite thing to do, John, was to get a cup of coffee in the morning and have that town that I was in, have that sports page in front of me to read. It was my favorite thing to do. You just don't see that anymore. Did that, the fact that the newspaper business is sort of dwindling, did that have anything to do with you making the change?
There was such a high with the deadline, getting something in, and the end of the night, it's all over, knowing that you're going to wake up, it's going to be in the newspaper. You don't have that anymore because of the super, super early deadlines.
Yeah.
You don't get today's news in tomorrow's paper. You get Tuesday's news in Thursday's paper.
You don't get box scores, John. You don't get box scores.
Right. Yeah. So we try to present something different and have things that others might not think of or do. It's always kind of been my MO at the Chronicle as the national baseball writer. So now I'm sort of condensing it, making it all local.
Yeah.
But then again, I always believe that any national story you can localize. There's always some local angle to whatever's happening nationally, globally in the world of baseball. And that's the beauty of it, trying to figure that out and present something different to readers who, I don't know any other website in the Bay Area besides yours that doesn't have pop-up ads. Right. And that's cool to go paragraph, and just read a story rather than being interrupted every paragraph or two. So that's kind of cool too. I'm not going to rip any previous employer or employee, whatever. But I will say that this is really. I thought I love my old job, but I really love this job.
Good. Well, then you did the right thing.
I think so.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's try to figure out who the next manager of the San Francisco Giants is going to be. But before we do that, there's been a lot of articles written and good articles, kind of about why was Bob Melvin fired, but I think most people and most of the media have done a pretty good job of hitting it accurately, I think. And tell me what you think, John, but in my opinion, I don't think Bob necessarily did anything wrong. I don't think it was pitching changes are bad. Lineup is awful. He doesn't, mistakes here. I don't think that had anything to do with the change that was made. I think it was simply the whole, we want a new voice. Yeah, I think that was part of it. And I've said this before, right on my show, John. I think it was as simple as Buster wanting to pick his own manager. I don't think it runs a whole lot deeper than that.
I think you're right. I also think Bob Melvin was the perfect 2-year, call him interim, call him buffer, whatever. He wanted to stay longer. Obviously, he has a contract through next season, but I think he was a perfect man for stability. He's a perfect man for promptness. He was a perfect man to be the adult in the room. All these things that maybe were lacking under the previous regime.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Bob is more than anybody. When you're on time for a Bob Melvin interview, you are late.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Whereas with Gabe Kapler, if you're on time, you're 20 minutes early.
Yeah.
And whatever. I mean, that's not a knock on Kapler. It's just the way he is. But this is the way Bob was. He
Mm-hmm.
ran a tight ship. He was the figure, the authoritative figure in the room. I never heard a negative word about how he mismanaged the bullpen within the clubhouse or mismanaged the lineup within the clubhouse or got on anybody publicly or any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a pro's pro and has done it so long. Now, you're right about Buster. He'll want his own guy, and all arrows seem to point to Nick Hundley. But whomever it's going to be is going to be somebody that he's going to grow with.
Yeah,
I asked a
absolutely.
question the other day in the press conference. I said, your contract is up in 2 years. It's not really a contract. I don't even think he signed. I mean, he's Buster Posey. He could do it anything. He just probably told the rest of the owners, I'll do it. I'll commit to 3 years.
Sure.
So I asked him, would you commit to longer? And he said, well, I hope so.
Yeah.
So in other words, he wants to see this through, and he wants to see it through with somebody I think he's familiar with, whether it's Nick Hundley or somebody else. I just don't see him, based on his track record of hiring Randy Wynn, Bobby Evans, other advisors who were his agents or associates. There's, when you're familiar with somebody, you're comfortable with somebody. And a lot of his inner circle, such as Zach Menagian, he didn't really know, but now they're really tight and they're a good tandem together. So I think based on his history of hires, I think he'll hire somebody. Even he did tell Kerry Crowley today that while it's not a deal breaker, if I get somebody I don't know, it sure is nice to be familiar with somebody when you do hire a guy like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very telling, and I think that's, and I've said it here, I think that's very important to Buster. I do think he wants to, he doesn't want to have to build a relationship with the guy again, because he had to do that with Bob, and he's had to do that with Zach. But this is his first managerial hire, so this is a big deal, But to me, there's no question he wants maybe somebody who is a little bit younger. I don't think he's going to do the, Bochy thing or the, the Joe Madden thing or, let's bring Dusty back. I don't think that's happening at all. And it's nothing against those guys. They could all manage and be successful again. But I think it's about somebody closer to Buster in age and somebody that he knows and somebody that he likes and somebody that he feels like he can grow with this organization. Because, like you were talking about the 3-year thing, he doesn't strike me, Buster, as the kind of guy that's going to say 3 years and out.
Yeah.
I just don't see him doing that because he's going to want to see this through. And he is going to desperately want to be successful because he's been successful in everything he's ever done that has to do with baseball. So he is not going to accept failure at all. That's just the kind of guy he is. I know him a little bit. You know him a fair amount. So I can see this being a fairly long-term thing with Buster, and he wants somebody to come along with him.
Glenn, I'm still fascinated he even took this job. Having covered draft day, having covered his major league debut, having covered his return in late May of 2010, having covered his 3 championship seasons, having covered his final season, and every press box, every press conference in and around his whole career. When he went back to Georgia, I thought that was for good. He sat out 2020. He sat out 2020 to be with his family during the pandemic. They only played 60 games, and the Dodgers won it all, and I guess they're counting that. And then he plays one more year and shuts it down. With a year on his contract, he leaves $25 million on the table. So I said, man, it's a family guy, family dude, family man. He's serious about family. Okay, then he goes back to Georgia for a year, wants to be with his family. Sure. And then guess what? He's had enough of Georgia. He comes back, joins the ownership group on the board of directors. And then within 2 years, he's the new president of baseball operations with zero experience in the field of managing a baseball team. He's managing a baseball team from behind the plate, a manager in his own right, but never had to delegate. I mean, in baseball, you only have to worry about yourself and the pitcher that's throwing to you, and the starting pitcher and the relievers who are going to throw at you. But in his new job, he's got to hear from the farm director and the assistant GM and every scout, from across the world. So I'm just fascinated he even has this job. And then all of a sudden they were 12-4. And then all of a sudden they were tied for first place in mid-June. And then I'm thinking, man, this guy's good at what he does. Yeah. But this season.
And he showed that he's not afraid to make a big deal either with the Devers thing. And that's not an easy trade to make in your first year.
I mean, bold moves, walking in the clubhouse and meeting up with Chapman. Hey, okay, we'll give you that guarantee. We'll give you the no trade. Yeah. Wrap that up. And then all of a sudden, no, we need a shortstop. Let's get the best on the market, Adames. And we'll pay him more than I ever made. And then let's not wait till the deadline. Let's bring in Devers now with the blockbuster deal. And it seemed everything he did worked. It took a while for Adames to cope offensively and defensively, adjust, whatever you want to call that. And Devers obviously didn't make an impact right away. And overall, I guess, didn't either. They're not in the playoffs, right? But even bringing in Dom Smith, and they won like 6 in a row after that. It just bold things, small and big. And it was bold to fire Bob Melvin with 1 year. It was bold to give him, pick up the option. And I was kind of stunned when asked at that press conference, why did you do it in retrospect? And he said he wanted to improve morale, or, get morale, peaking a little more. And, we weren't playing great, so that maybe this would get us over to the hump. And I'm, well, wow, you give the guy an extra X million dollars a year, guaranteed, because he saw what the Dom Smith acquisition did right away. And he saw what other things he did right away, including Adames. He, the Willie Mack Award winner in his first year, very inspirational dude. So he kind of rolled the dice with that. It didn't work, but he's not afraid to take chances, like you said.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, then you could be a little gun shy your first go around at this, but so I mean, listen, we talk a lot about Buster. He's going to be the guy doing this. Listen, everybody has read the names, right? Hundley's a big name. Suzuki's been interviewed. DeRosa's name is there. People are starting to talk about Molina. So there's a lot going on there. I don't think anybody knows exactly who it is. Hundley's the name that keeps popping up. I think Hundley's the name that probably fits the most.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But you don't know, does the guy really, Hundley's very, very highly thought of in the baseball world. And he's been with the Rangers front office. Does he want to do more front office work? Does he want to manage, right? There's a lot of work managing. So you don't know if the guy wants to manage, but he did get an interview from what we understand. So I think it's easy to sort of cast your eyes toward Hundley as very much, I don't know. I don't want to say the favorite because we really don't know. They're going to keep this real close to the vest, but I guess it's going to be that kind of guy, I think, John.
Yeah.
A guy who not long ago was a player. Right. In Buster's age group, maybe a catcher, maybe Buster likes that, but I think that's sort of the wheel that it's going to be coming from.
His final year in the Bay Area as a player, his final 3 years actually, the A's, and then 2 years before that, the Giants. And this was a backup catcher, and you don't usually have a backup catcher winning the Willie Mack Award as the most inspirational player.
Yeah,
I mean. Really? I mean, Willie Adames won it, but he was like a face of the franchise.
Sure.
But this guy backed up Buster Posey and was a Willie Mack Award winner.
Yeah.
So that just shows what his influence is on young guys in the clubhouse, on old guys in the clubhouse. And having covered him, he was quite the presence. Bochy loved him. Posey absolutely loved him. The pitchers really liked him. They liked throwing to him. So he commanded respect. He had a presence, and the only knock on him is he's never managed.
Yeah.
That's the way. That's the world we're in. It used to be you'd have to spend 3, 4, 5, 6 years if you're Felipe Alou, 20 years. That we'd go on. That's another story that should have never happened in the minor leagues. But now it's, hey, you know what? These guys make a lot of money. They want to be managers, but maybe working in the front office like he does in Texas as an advisor and assistant coach or whatever you want to call it in spring training and scout. And he did all the things behind the scenes. But I think what he did as a player is what impresses Posey the most as a teammate.
Sure.
So I would not be surprised because catchers tend to be very good at these positions. B, he is a friend of Posey, like Randy Wynn was. That's not to say that's the only prerequisite, but that goes a long way. And C, I think he commands the room. And I think when you command the room at 42, if they don't have Verlander, he'd be the oldest guy in the room. Who knows what the coaching staff is going to look like? I'm sure it's going to be, major changes because Posey's already said the manager will have big time say on who these coaches are. But I imagine they would love to keep, the pitching coaches and one or two other guys at least. But I'm not sure about the hitting coaches. I'm not sure. Well, we're going to have a new bench coach. We're going to have a new third base coach because those were Melvin's guys, Christensen and Williams. So changes are coming. And I think Buster Posey doesn't mind having his fingerprints over this because if you remember midseason, the day he picked up the manager's option, he was the one who took the blame. And it's not like it was totally his roster. He brought in some guys, but it's really, he inherited most of the team.
Yeah.
But now more and more, those guys are gone. Some new guys are coming in and it's going to be his roster. It's going to be his staff. It's going to be his manager. So it's, so if there's anyone to take the blame, he's going to have to take the blame, but he also going to get a lot of credit if this team turns it around.
Yeah, that's right. John, we got a few comments that you'll like. The folks from the New York Giants Preservation Society. Do you know those folks? They're awesome. They said
John and company. Oh man,
John has set the standard. Incredible writer, helps us New Yorkers follow the Giants. So those are good people. They're a lot of fun. Marty Lurie has reposted our show, which is great. Look at these people are awesome. Last Dive Bar people. This is a super chat they're putting in. Couple of fine gentlemen around the beers for a couple of our favorite fellows. And listen,
let's go.
I almost, and I'm not lying, I almost get a little misty-eyed for those folks because they loved the A's so much. And, they, like all other A's fans, just got screwed over. But they were always good to me. I wish I would have got to know the Last Dive Bar guys a little bit better. But they also put a comment, nobody called a homer like Glenn. So many iconic calls that make the hair on your arm stand up. Thank you. I mean, what can you say to that? Good people. The Last Dive Bar, they got screwed. But, and for them, John, toward the end of the show, we will talk about the A's situation.
Okay, love to. Sure.
Yeah, we'll touch on that just a little bit. But I just want to check out if there's any other. Gary says, miss the days of Glenn calling A's games alongside Ray Fosse and later Dallas Braden. I appreciate that a lot. That's very nice. Gary says, Posey probably goes for a younger manager and perhaps a first-time one. I think that's sort of the way we're feeling as well. And I don't know that we're going to have to wait a super long time, for some type of announcement. So anyways, let's move on to the next subject matter. And we won't spend a lot of time on this, John, but how would you describe the 2025 San Francisco Giants season? Because I've followed this team a long time. I was with the A's for a long time. I've seen all different kinds of seasons, as you have. I don't know that I've seen a season quite like this, where the highs and the lows were like, wow, this team's really good. And 2 weeks later, they were bad. And then 2 weeks later, they were good again. I mean, that lasted the whole final 3 months of the season. I found it to be a very abnormal season for any major league team, let alone the Giants. What are some of your quick thoughts about just in general the 2025 season?
Well, it gave me a headache because I'm writing, this team's terrific. This team, 2 weeks later, this team's awful. This team's awful.
Make up your mind, John.
Make up your mind, team. Who are you guys? They never told us who they were. And then all of a sudden, it's 81 and 81. So, okay, that's who you are. That's who you were last year. That's who you were the year before, the year before that. 81 and 81 forever. It's not really a rally cry, but it's who they were. And, we're talking about Bob Melvin. If Buster doesn't make those trades at the deadline, maybe they're in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Tyler Rogers and Camilo Doval, I mean, he was flipping coins when it came time to picking bullpen guys in the final month or two, because Randy Rodriguez and Eric Miller, those guys were hurt, and the other two guys were traded to the New York teams. Yastrzemski was dealt. So at that time, like Buster said, the information that we were aware of and that we thought of, and we went with it. I said, okay, we're out of it. Let's bring in some new guys. And the Rogers trade in particular could reap some, good talent. Mm-hmm. But then they got good again. And that screwed up everything. So wait a minute. Okay, now you're not building for the future. You're playing Wilmer Flores every day.
Yeah.
Okay, what benefit is that if he's going to be a free agent and not returning next season? So I'm still kind of dizzy thinking about it. But I think it's unfortunate that Bob Melvin got the blame. I think it was unfair. And I think it was very unprofessional by some in the media who looked at those Logan Webb comments in his second to last start as an indication that he wanted the manager fired. A lot of people that I know ran with that, and they were just totally wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I thought
I went to Webb afterward, after the group, which wasn't on TV, which wasn't on the radio. And I said, hey, when you spoke those strong words, were you thinking the manager at all? He said, oh, absolutely not. I want Bob Melvin to return next season, 100%. So, and he even referenced it after his final start. He said, hey, some of you guys kind of screwed this up, misconstrued comments, whatever. He didn't say it that strongly, but he did use the word misconstrued my comments. So that was unfortunate that people added 2 and 2 and got 9. But Melvin's gone. So you move on. He's a pro. He's a gentleman. It's not like they didn't play for him, but I think it was bad luck. It was bad rhythm. It was bad, whatever you want to call it. Nobody blamed the manager. Nobody pointed fingers at the manager. I've covered teams, and you've been there in Oakland, and I've been there in San Francisco, where you say, man, yeah, he's kind of costing us games here. So we need a fresh voice. And I don't think that was the case, but I do think that it's the streakiest team I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. I've been covering baseball since I've been covering the mid 80s Padres. And I just don't remember a season where I just never knew who they were until the very end. And they reminded me again, they reminded you, we're just a 500 team with some holes that, and by the way, Buster Posey has a lot more work to do this offseason than he did last offseason. He brought in 2 guys. He brought in Verlander, he brought in Adames. And that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got, times 6. He's got 3 starting pitchers. He's got a bullpen. He could use a half a dozen new guys. He doesn't have a closer. He doesn't have a setup man. Who's playing right field? Who's the leadoff hitter? And what are you going to do with that outfield defense? It's just not good. Maybe bring in a couple of outfielders.
Yeah.
They used to be really good with these 6-year free agents. I think they got Gregor, Blanco, and Andres Torres, 10, 15 years ago. And some of this front office is still around, Jeremy Shelley's and Bobby Evans of the world, who were really good at that. And maybe that's a key to get back to just bring in a whole bunch of warm bodies and hope a few of them stick.
Yeah.
Because it certainly worked back in the day, and they just didn't have the depth this season in the lineup, defensively, and especially in the rotation and bullpen.
I could see them making a couple significant deals, John. I could. That would not surprise me at all. I think they need to. I think they need to make some changes in the outfield. And it would not surprise me at all if they make a couple significant deals and bring in maybe a couple players that are more what I think the front office is looking for in players. Maybe a little more defensive minded, a little more speed minded, put the ball in play a little bit. I could see them trying hard to get an outfielder that fits that category, because that's I think a better fit for this team. That's my comment on the whole thing. I don't know. We'll see.
And it doesn't have to be a Kyle Tucker. It could be somebody. I mean, how valuable was Dom Smith with his bat to ball skills?
Absolutely.
And the fact that he didn't strike out, and the fact that he was wonderful defensively, the best first baseman they have. Yeah. How valuable his wins and losses when in games he played is much better than the team's wins and losses overall.
Sure.
And hitting with runners in scoring position, which they struggled with most of the summer, he was very good at.
Yeah.
And that's a dilemma. It's like, okay, how sold are you on Bryce Eldridge? Enough so that you don't want Dom Smith? And Dom Smith told me that he's working with a speed coach for the second straight offseason to develop his outfield skills.
Yeah.
In AAA with the Yankees this year, he played the outfield.
Sure.
2 or 3 years ago with the Mets, he played the outfield. So he's a first baseman / outfielder in his mind. I don't know if he's an average defensive outfielder, but I think he's good enough to make you think, hey, we need that depth in our on our roster.
Yeah.
And
That's fair.
And we have all these strikeout guys like Devers and Adames, both career highs in strikeouts this year, career highs. And I don't think they care, because I asked Devers before the last game of the season, is this something you're going to try to work on, cut down on? He said, no. He said, I'm fine. He said, the production I provide otherwise is what I look at, not the strikeouts. I said, oh, okay. Yeah. So how much have we changed in the last number of years?
Significant too with Devers is if you look at his strikeout totals, they were very high this year. And in his career, the kind of hitter he is, he's a major power hitter. He has not been like a huge strikeout guy. I mean, if you have a 35 homer, 110 RBI guy who strikes out 125 times nowadays, that's really not that much.
That's true.
But
we grew up with Bobby Bonds,
yeah,
who had the record for like 10 years because every manager pulled their guy in the final couple of weeks because they didn't want their guy to match Bobby Bonds' strikeout record. And
but my point is,
Devers, go ahead.
Devers, he set a career high in strikeouts this year by a significant amount. So that number needs to come down, I think, because he's, I don't know what the number was, but he was up around 185, I think, this year.
And a lot of those were streaky. Like in his first 19 at-bats with Boston, he struck out 15 times. And then he came here and he struck out 4 times a game, many times.
Yeah.
So what's going on here? But the point is, they have their strikeout guys. Chapman's numbers actually came down a bit, but Adames strikes out and Devers strikes out, and Elliott Ramos will strike out. Mm-hmm. So you have to complement those guys or balance those guys with bat to ball hitters.
Absolutely.
Like Dom Smith or whomever you might pick up. But it's just way too many strikeouts. And we see what the Brewers do, even Toronto.
Absolutely.
In a small sample size, it's fun to watch because they put the ball in play.
Yeah. That's where I think they need a couple more guys like that, whether it be an outfielder or at second base who can do that. I think they need a couple guys like that in the lineup. So it's going to be an interesting offseason. But let's get to the postseason. What's going on now? Everybody knows Dodgers are up 2-0. Brewers are up 2-0 in the National League. The Yankees came back and won tonight, so Blue Jays up 2-1 in that series. And the Mariners won tonight 8-4 in Detroit, so they're up 2-1 in that series. So you got everybody's getting close. Remember, these are 5-game series, but just watching the games, John, and watching the teams, it's hard for me to see somebody that's better than the Dodgers. It really is. Listen, I don't like saying that, whatever. But my point it's just that I think it's almost a reality of their pitching to me is what separates them from these other 8 teams that are still playing. They haven't even had to throw Tyler Glass now, right? He'd be starting for some other team. So
he's a long reliever.
Yeah, so Kershaw's not even on the roster for this round, and I just look at them and the way they play in their pitching, and as much as I'd like to see my hometown Milwaukee Brewers win for the first time, the Mariners have never won a World Series. They've never been to a World Series, John. So things like that, I would love to cheer for, and I do cheer for those teams, but man, it's just when you just stop and look at baseball, look at the games, look at the rosters, look at the confidence. It's just hard to see somebody beating the Dodgers.
Yeah. And that lineup just wears you out. It doesn't matter who you are.
Phillies, it doesn't matter how much you fall behind every game, right? We saw it against the Giants. Giants up 3-4-0, and you just know that at some point they're going to tie the game. And we've seen it in this postseason already.
I think the best play of the postseason was that wheel play on the bunt the other day when
simple execution.
Rob Thompson, for whatever reason, you explain this to me. You're ready for the kill, right? All you need is a base hit. You got a tie game, put the winning run on you, and you have the home field advantage, and you call for a bunt. And it's like, wait a minute. There's no outs. There's a guy in second. Give me 3 chances to get a single and tie the sucker up.
I agree. So, I felt the same way.
Turned that into an embarrassment. And Thompson, the Phillies manager, said, at home, you go for the tie. I said, no. At home, you go for the kill.
Yeah.
You go for the win. I mean, in May, you go for the tie. In October, you go for the win.
Yeah.
And that just totally changed all the momentum. It was a beautiful play.
It was. Absolutely.
We need Marty and Ron Wotus to go over it, but
But the thing too, like I said to say I didn't like it either because the kid that's hitting Stotts, he's a left-handed hitter.
It's left on left, yeah.
So worst case scenario, he rolls over on a ball and gets the guy to third. But you're right, he also could have rolled one through the right side for hit. I agree. And there was 2 things that happened in the game, John, and both in the 9th inning. And I thought they were both screw-ups. I didn't like the bunt. And I thought it at the time. It's not hearsay. I didn't like it. I said, no, that's not no. And I don't know why Dave Roberts didn't bring Sasaki in to start the inning. That makes no sense to me.
Well, I do think that
today where he announced, well, he is going to be there in save situations. It's like, well, if you're announcing it today, why didn't you bring him in to start the 9th inning? That to me was a mistake.
Yeah, they announced today, right?
Right. I mean, it's like, well,
I do think that play. The backstory is they made the pitching change, so Dave Roberts came out to the mound.
Yeah.
And Mookie, the shortstop, he could play anywhere, I guess.
Yeah.
Suggested, hey, this guy's bunting. Let's try the wheel play, in which Max Muncy, the third baseman, charges. Mookie, the shortstop, covers third. The second baseman, Edmonds, covers first on the bunt because the first baseman, Freeman, is charging. And the last second, once it goes down third baseline, Freeman darts to second. So you got all these moving parts, and it worked beautifully. And Muncy, who you saw in Oakland, and you never could have imagined.
No, He
how
was a
bad he
terrible,
was defensively,
terrible player in Oakland.
offensively, body type,
Oh,
presence. He said,
he was
this
a
guy is awful. He's never, why is he even here in spring training?
double
And
A
look at him
player.
now.
Absolutely.
He turns around, throws a perfect strike to Mookie on the run to tag the runner who probably shouldn't have been going, because you're not going to beat Mookie to second base, Castellanos. And I said, oh, game's over. And I don't usually second guess a manager unless I do it in real time. I'm not going to do it tomorrow looking back.
No,
But in real
absolutely.
time, I'm saying, what are you doing? What are you hunting for?
Absolutely. Because
Right?
if you criticize him the next day, which we're doing, but I can
Yes,
honestly
we
say,
are.
I can honestly say with my hand on my heart, John, I said, no, you don't let the kid swing away here. He's a
Right.
pretty good hitter, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's
You
what
could make
happens
a
in the post.
productive out by, hitting it to the right side or something, whatever.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, the Dodgers, we might not see Dodgers Yankees, because they're 4 elimination games tomorrow, I think. So
that's right. Yeah, you're right. They're all 4 playing tomorrow.
It could be a couple of 3-1s, but the Yankees are barely hanging on. Thank you, Aaron Judge. And the Dodgers are steamrolling. And the Padres, what about the Padres? How bad did the Giants look against the Padres? And then the Padres get to the postseason. How bad did they look against who they play? The Cubs.
Yeah.
And then the Cubs, how bad do they look?
They look against the Brewers. Yeah.
Against the Brewers. So I said, okay, what is that? Where does that leave the Giants?
Yeah.
That's kind of far down there.
It's my criticism of the Padres, John. And the front office has done some great things. They've turned San Diego into a baseball town. It's great down there. You go to a series down there.
Best baseball environment in the game.
I think it is, right? So now you got guys. So they have turned that organization and that town into a baseball rich environment, and that's not easy to do, and they have done that, and they deserve a ton of credit for that. But here's my thing. Every year we hear all the talk about the Padres won the offseason. They made this trade, they signed this guy. And they're very aggressive, and they do that. Every year we hear that, and at the trade deadline, almost every year, John, we hear they won the trade deadline. And they probably won the trade deadline this year.
Yeah.
But after a while,
Mason Miller,
you need to win the postseason. And for some strange reason, they have not been able to do that, because I think their team, you look at their team, John, it's very talented. And they got a great bullpen, and they got good starting pitching. Their lineup is tough. We see it against the Giants all the time. But it's just, my thing has become, I'm tired of hearing about how they win the offseason and they win the trade deadline. Because really the only thing that matters to me is, are you getting to the postseason? And then you gotta at some point, you gotta do your thing.
So
you gotta ring the world champion bell here. Let's go.
The last year they got to the LCS, the manager was
Bruce Bochy.
Bob Melvin.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was. Oh, you're right. I was thinking. Yeah, that was what, 2022.
Yeah. And then the next year they don't make the playoffs. They're like 82-80, and they get rid of Bob Melvin. Well, Bob Melvin leaves and comes up to the San Francisco. Yeah. And then Schilt, the new manager, he's ousted in the division series, and this year he's ousted in the wild card series. Are they not winners? Is that a team of losers, Glen Kuiper? I won't. That's all I'm asking.
Well, listen, I don't like to call anybody a loser.
Yeah.
Or a winner. But I know what you're saying. I know it's like. It is. My question, John, is they have a ton of talent, and it's good, and they're signed long term. Is there something missing there?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that make sense? Because Bob Melvin got him to the NLCS, and then the next year was a disaster, and he wanted out, and they wanted to get rid of him, and the team really struggled. And then, they get back last year. They're in the postseason this year, but they don't get it done in the postseason. So, listen, they have a team that could win the World Series. Mm-hmm. I think that's fair. Oh. They have the talent to win the World Series, but they're not even getting there. So, I don't know.
Maybe they're one. I mean, if they had Mookie Betts, instead of player X,
or that,
instead of Bogarts. I don't know.
That kind of player.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's a winner.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I don't want to point fingers at anybody on the Padres, but all I'm seeing every year is a team that underperforms every single year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very strange because, you watch them play and you're impressed with them and yeah, they beat up on the Giants, but you just watch them play and it's just, man, that guy's good. That guy's good.
Yeah.
Jackson Merrill's a young star. Right. And, and then they bring Mason Miller and then they just shut it down in the postseason. I don't know. It's maybe it is a criticism. I don't know. But at some point, I just think they have all the makings, organization, ballpark, revenue, team. They should win a World Series, and they just haven't done it.
And maybe one year they will. Listen,
the
Dodgers won how many division titles before they won the World Series in 2020? Can I do this with the quotation marks? We're winning the World Series in 2020, abbreviated season, no fans. Did that count? Well, they count it.
I don't count.
They say they've won 2 since Kirk Gibson, not 1.
Doesn't count.
That's fine. It counts. It's in the record books. I'm just mentioning it. But it took him forever to get there and win. Yeah. I mean, Dave Roberts could have been fired 3 different ways. Yeah. And now he's going to the Hall of Fame. I don't know. That's what I hear. That's what Bill Plaschke would write. But I love Bill Plaschke. But I mean, if the Padres are in every single year, they're going to win one time. They have to. Even though they've never won. San Diego has never won anything. The Chargers, the Clippers, the Padres, going back decades. Yeah. The Eric Coryell and the Garvey, Gwynn, Gossage, all those guys in '84, and then Tony Gwynn in '96, and all these teams that AJ Preller is building, and they're just fascinating teams and fun to watch. And like I said, there's no better scene than Petco Park. The atmosphere is amazing. It's so fan friendly. The weather, the environment, the views, even the uniforms are kind of funky, but I dig them. And they just don't get over the hump. And maybe it's that, little brother syndrome, looking up at the Dodgers all these years and putting too much pressure on themselves to get there. But man alive, one of these years has got to happen, right?
You would think. But it's sort of a little pet peeve of mine that I don't want to hear about how great the offseason was and how great the trade deadline was if you can't bring it home. And I know it's very difficult to win the World Series. I get that. It's very, very hard to do. You got to have breaks. You got to have things go your way. You got to get hot at the right time. All that needs to happen. But there just seems to be all the makings of that should happen down there. And it just hasn't yet. So anyways, let's move on to the future of Major League Baseball. Some things came out recently about TV ratings are way up. Attendance is up. Everything is moving in the right direction, which is great. I think younger people are becoming more engaged in baseball again, which is something that MLB desperately wanted to do. Let's get the younger generation involved because they have become disinterested in baseball. And I think all that's working, and MLB deserves a lot of credit for that. Some of the changes they've made, with the pitch clock and stuff like that. I think it's all worked. But then you have this thing looming after next year, John, some type of work stoppage. What are you hearing, and I'm not going to ask you what you think is going to happen because nobody knows what's going to happen, but kind of what are you hearing about this? Because it certainly seems to be a no-doubter that on December 1st of 2026, baseball is going to shut down, and the owners and the players are going to go at it again. And when they tell you now that this is going to be very, very ugly, it usually means it's going to be very, very ugly. Yeah. So what are your thoughts? What are you hearing?
I mean, I've spoken with Tony Clark quite a bit on this, and in interviews with Rob Manfred. And and we've gone through this many times before. And, I reported during the 94-95 strike, which was miserable, and the strike players, and all of a sudden they fired everybody. And 3 weeks later, they started the 95 season. There was no World Series in 94. And it was just a big mess. The whole game shut down in mid-August. And to baseball's credit, well, we've had the steroid era, which maybe hasn't gone away fully. We've had the pandemic. We've had a lot of things under their control and not under their control that messed with the integrity of the game. And all the times that they've had lockouts or strikes or work stoppages have been in the off season. So you haven't seen much of the season wiped out. This season, or this upcoming CBA talks, are going to start next spring, and it'll go throughout the whole season. There are a lot of naysayers who thought of gloom and doom in these other CBA negotiations. So from that, I draw an opinion that all will be well. It's all threats. Manfred's talking about the positivities of the positive vibes of a lockout, how it could be beneficial. And Tony Clark's going clubhouse to clubhouse, telling everybody that the owners want a work stoppage because they want a salary cap. And Tony Clark told me, we will never, ever, ever agree to a salary cap. We haven't in 50 or 60 years, and we won't now. And that's the company line. He said he would agree to a floor. And that's kind of a thing that, well, that would have forced John Fisher to spend a little bit money in the Oakland years, and Miami and Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati back when they weren't spending. All these teams that were just killing their roster to get high draft picks would be forced to pay more money. Fisher finally did, but he was forced to because of revenue sharing. It wouldn't kick in unless his payroll was going to be 100 plus. But anyway, on one hand, I see, well, I've heard all these threats before, and at the last minute, they both sides make too much darn money, the billionaires and the millionaires, to shut down the game that they profit from so much. On the other hand, I don't think I've remembered both sides digging in this early. So
that's my point.
Yeah. And if you're digging in this early on a cap or no cap, and Manfred said we can't exist without a cap, but this is going to be Manfred's last hurrah because he's shutting it down like a year or two after that. He's already announced he's retiring. But he's got all this work to do if he wants two more teams to get from 30 to 32, and if he wants realignment of the divisions, make them more geographic, and if he wants better RSNs with the regional sports networks. He wants to control everything. The Dodgers, who are making like $250 million with their RSN, are not about to get into bed with the Padres, who make next to nothing anymore because of all the bankruptcies with the cable deals over the years. So it's a big mess. In 94, 95, we talked about the haves and the have-nots. We're still there, even though we see the Brewers in there and in Toronto, and but the Rockies don't compete, and the Pirates don't compete, and the Reds finally compete to an extent. But you see the same teams in the playoffs every year, unlike in football, unlike in basketball, unless there's a Michael Jordan on a team or a LeBron. But for the most part, it's maybe an unfair game. But baseball's always been that way. They love their dynasties. They love their Yankees and their Dodgers. They make MLB makes all kinds of money off those teams. So they don't always want a dynasty like a Green Bay Packer dynasty. That doesn't serve them well financially. They like the big tickets dominating the sport. But anyway, If there's a work stoppage, I think it would surprise me. A lot of people in our industry, I don't think it would surprise, but I've just gone down this road so many times and I've heard the threats. But again, the sides are throwing, they're venomous and they're throwing harsh words at each other already, and they haven't even begun the negotiations.
Yeah, that's sort of the concern. And like what you just said, that it seems like that has started maybe a little earlier than in other work stoppage situations. So let's keep our fingers crossed. And it'll be interesting when the season ends next year, because everybody's going to have their eyes on that.
You don't want to be a free agent after next season.
No, that's a good call. That's a good call. All right, let's move on to our next subject. The A's season in Sacramento. I don't talk a whole lot about the Oakland A's for personal reasons. I try to move past that, but I did up Sacramento for Giants A's game. I think it may have been the 4th of July, or it was the Sunday game. I had never been up there. I wanted to see the whole scene, and it was a fun night. It was a beautiful Sunday night. Obviously, A's and Giants, so there was the crowd was full. So, anyways, you were up there a fair amount, keeping a close eye on what was going. What were some of your just general reactions about them playing up there? I think we all know it's a bad drill. It's not a good move. It's not good to play a major league team in a minor league ballpark. We all get that, but it's happening. It's going to happen next year. It's going to happen the year after. So, your general thoughts about what happened there this summer?
I think it was a major failure. I think it was sad for Oakland. It was sad for Sacramento. It was sad for A's fans. It was sad for people who bought season tickets, who thought there was going to be sellouts every night as promised by the A's. Local businesses, it's sad for them because they failed because the A's failed. There weren't 14,014 people coming out every night into the streets of Sacramento, going to bars and restaurants or gift shops. There was 7,000 announced, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 in reality. You were there, one of the 7 sellouts.
Yeah.
7 sellouts. Opening day.
Wow.
Giants, Yankees. 7 games were sold out. In August and September, they rarely got more than 7,000. And it was just a disgraceful exhibition of lunacy that was overseen by Major League Baseball and A's ownership. And players are popping off about the facility because it's a minor league park. And not only did John Fisher turn away A's fans, turn away from Oakland, but he also turned on Sacramento. The team wouldn't even acknowledge the city. To put A's instead of Sacramento on the jersey was a slap in the face to all of Sacramento, who wanted to embrace and welcome this team, but instead felt left out because Fisher used them only as a place to visit for 3 years, maybe 4, and then move on to where he wants to go. I mean, the major sponsors in the outfield are Las Vegas sponsorships.
Yeah.
So, and I'm thinking, how tough would it have been to put Sacramento on the jersey, reach out to the community, be real with the people there? And by not doing that, it gives Sacramento baseball a bad name, because Sacramento baseball wanted to showcase itself to the baseball world that, hey, we could support a Major League Baseball team. But this wasn't a Major League Baseball effort.
Operation.
Well, I mean, I don't want to knock the baseball ops people, because every year they save ownership by putting by bringing in new players. And we're seeing them again now from David Forrest on down. And back from Billy Beane. I mean, ownership never really provided payroll or resources, but for whatever reason, the baseball ops always produced teams. I mean, they were in the 2000s, what, sixth in most playoff appearances in the 2000s, behind all the heavy hitters like Atlanta and LA and the Yankees and Boston, et cetera. So more than the Giants. So it's so unfortunate. And I go up there and I'm thinking, man, this just didn't have to be, and the only reason we're here is so John Fisher can get his RSN money from NBC Sports California. And that's why he didn't go to Salt Lake City, because he would have gotten zero.
Yeah.
And if he stayed in Oakland, he would have probably gotten a little bit more, but he would have gotten the Boo Birds every night. And now maybe he doesn't hear them as much, but they're still there. They're still there. So anyway, the attendance is down with the A's. Baseball every single night. So there are fewer people going to River Cats games, and there's not as many as projected going to A's games. So it's going to be more of the same next year, maybe even more so, because those season ticket holders this year felt kind of bamboozled, and they're not going to divvy up to be season ticket holders next year when they know that they're paying whatever it was, $100 a ticket or more. And then the A's 2 hours before game time are selling the same ticket right in the next section for $20.
Yeah.
What good is that? And they can't sell their tickets on the secondary market. But I don't know. What do you think? I'm done talking.
No, I mean, I think, listen, it's a bad situation all around. My feeling, John, is I always felt, and I haven't said this to a lot of people, but you and I have talked a lot about this, but my time there, especially the last, maybe from 2015 on or so, I just felt like the people that were running the business side, not the baseball people, because like you said, the baseball people have always done a pretty darn good job, but the people that were running the non-baseball operations, I just always felt like they were overmatched. They were vice presidents who should have been much lower.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't prepared to do the heavy lifting, but yet they faked it and tried to do the heavy lifting. And I think it's still showing up that way, to be quite honest with you. And it was, I mean, we would sit there from our broadcasting, part of the whole deal. And we would hear ideas from people that were our bosses that were just like that. Well, that doesn't make any sense. We can't do that on TV. They didn't even know. It was just like where you would just kind of sit there and go, okay, so it was that feeling of, I don't know that these people are the right people to make these big decisions. And then those were the same people that were making these big decisions when it was time to start working on Las Vegas. And some of those people are still there. And so that was always the thing that I don't know. I was just kind of shook my head like, wow, these people are the people that we're answering to. I'm not sure. And I've told this story a few times, John, and it's one of the things that I will always be most disappointed about with the situation that happened to me when I had the misfortune in Kansas City and what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
That from that night on, John, till I sit here right now with you. Think about this, 2.5 years ago or whatever. I have never one time heard from any of my bosses that I answered to at the A's. You think about that. I was there for 22 years, did whatever they told me, made bad teams sound good, worked hard, whatever, and that's fine. But none of them, my bosses, people I answered to, ever called me after that night and said, hey, you know what? This is what we need to do. I would have been fine with that. And that tells me a lot about them as leaders and as people. And those are the people that are now trying to figure out how can we pull off this move to Las Vegas, which they may do, but I don't have a lot of confidence in it because I've seen a lot of these people at their worst, and it's not that impressive.
Does it start with John Fisher? Because the number of
he does not have my phone number, I guess. No, he does not.
But you are who you work for, and if John Fisher has a certain environment that he produces or promotes, and it's not as good as maybe the one across the bay, it's very noticeable. In my time, I always seem to hear from A's executives in Oakland anyway. What are the Giants doing? What are they thinking? How are they doing this? I never heard anybody from the Giants say anything about the A's. So it was always, I'm talking about the Padres' little brother syndrome. Yeah. I think it was definitely definitely a thing here because the payroll difference, the ballpark difference after the Giants left Candlestick and moved in to Third and King, changed everything because they had left Candlestick, and at the time before Pac Bell, Candlestick was the number 2 stadium in the Bay Area. The Coliseum was far better, and the weather was better, and it was a better atmosphere. It wasn't as cold. So, but since 2000, you really felt that. It's like, wow, how come the A's guys are always asking me about the Giants and the Giants guys are never asking me about the A's?
Yeah, that's very accurate, John. Very accurate. Which was always a little hard to figure out too, because really the A's were having quite a bit of success on the field. But my thing too now with this move, and it, they're digging in Las Vegas, and it looks like the stadium will get built there. I guess we'll see. My concern, I think, if they get that stadium built on there, and it's working that way, but the question for me, John, is will it work in Las Vegas? Will a major league team work in Las Vegas? That to me is a huge, huge question mark. I hope it does. I hope it does because it'll make Major League Baseball a better situation. But if it doesn't work, Major League Baseball is screwed because they can't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the Miami Marlins. Marlins got a beautiful stadium. There's nobody that goes. The Marlins aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And that will be a bad look for Major League Baseball. And I'm not 100% sold that a major league team will work year in and year out, 162 games in Las Vegas. How do you feel about it working down there?
Well, the Raiders work only because it's once a week or once every other week. And when they play the 49ers or the Chiefs or the Broncos or anybody else in the NFL, every team in the NFL travels well.
Yeah.
And Las Vegas is always the stop you want to make.
Sure.
So 81 games versus what football is, that's kind of a stretch. And Fisher's team told the lawmakers in Nevada when they tried to get that bill passed that we have to sell out every game to make this work. They can't even sell out a minor league facility, but they want to go to Vegas, which is probably 90% Dodger fans right now. And
that's very true.
Try to build a base of A's fans in a community that doesn't really want them. And Bryce Harper has said over and over, we don't want the A's. We want an expansion team, just like the NHL team, so that we know that there are ours instead of Philadelphia, Kansas City, Oakland, Sacramento, Vegas A's. It could just be the Vegas whatever Diamonds, and it's rough because Manfred wants 32.
Yeah.
And Vegas was going to be an expansion candidate. So now that if this does happen and they move to Vegas, now you need two other places, whether it's Salt Lake City, Nashville, whatever. Dave Stewart is involved.
Yeah.
So, talks about expansions really have died in the last year or two. Mm-hmm. And it's not like there's an obvious market, but they want to get to 32 so they could have all these 14 divisions.
Yeah.
Like the other leagues. But I'll believe it when I see it. Baseball working there on a daily basis when the Royals are in on a Tuesday. You're going to sell that sucker out? Are the casino owners going to want to have all their clients leave the tables to catch a 3-hour baseball game and walk 2 blocks in that heat to get there? I'm not sure. I think a lot of people will stay in the air conditioning and hope to draw an 11 so they can get a 10 of spades and get blackjack. But it's going to be rough sailing, I think, unless I'm totally wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit the way I feel too. And I want to read this to you, John. Last dive bar again with a super chat. Got to tell him again. We'll forever be grateful to John. He had our backs and amplified the voice of the fans better than anyone out there. He was right there in the trenches with us. So those are your good friends at the last dive bar. And they got another one here. They decided to put John Fisher there. Good Lord. So anyways,
that's very nice of them. I wrote countless stories when I was at the Chronicle about whether it was a Manfred interview or a Tony Clark interview or challenging John Fisher. There's just too many people who went along with it and believed in Howard Terminal and believed in John Fisher. And early on, a lot of A's fans were condemning me because I wasn't buying into it. And I never thought John Fisher was even buying into it, the whole Howard Terminal deal. I guess he invested money, but suddenly Oakland is the worst place he can be. Whereas 5-10 years ago, he supposedly was investing in money to promote Howard Terminal, but $13 billion was never going to work. All you need is and then build around it like the Giants did in China Basin. You build a ballpark and then you build around it. You don't build the community and at the last minute stick a ballpark in the middle of it. And that's where they totally got it wrong. And then they said, I asked Dave Cavell, I asked Fisher, I asked all these guys who said, why has it got to be at the water? You got the Coliseum property. You could build there. You could have all that property yourself. You take down the arena, you take down the stadium, and you can have your own little ballpark village. Oh, we want to be near the water. The Giants are near the water, and we want to build something even better than their ballpark. So that's a little brother syndrome. That's a little brother syndrome. Said, no, man, do it yourself your own way. Build at the Coliseum. You got the property, and you can do anything you want. It's centrally located. There's all the parking. There's BART. It's in the middle of the Bay Area. And you want to go where there's no parking and no BART, and you got to run across a train track and hopefully not get killed to go to a baseball game? I mean, I just never got that. And I know A's fans were hopeful because it was a way to keep the team. But I think Rob Manfred blew it in a couple of ways, and Bud Selig did too. Bud Selig, Hall of Famer commissioner. There have been Major League Baseball owners who told me that Bud and Rob should have allowed the A's to go to Santa Clara in the South Bay in San Jose. Mm-hmm. But they also said we would have gotten the 75% vote. Yeah. We needed 75% of the owners to approve a relocation such as that. And Lou Wolf had the votes. the Giants threatened, lawsuits, whatever, and Rob budged, and then Rob did a total 180. And one year he said, after I asked him at an All-Star game morning of, I asked him, I said, the future of Oakland, and he said, if we ever leave Oakland, we're going to regret it. And it wasn't 3 years later that he said, we're leaving Oakland. So what changed? Well, he works for the owners, and John Fisher changed. If John Fisher wanted to stay in Oakland, they'd be in Oakland today.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. And you know what I think, John, and we'll move on to our final segment here. But I hate to say this because, I love the fans in Oakland. They were great to me. They're good people. They're loyal, and they're pissed, and they have a right to be pissed. But I just don't think when you look at MLB's master plan here and what they want to do, and the potential expansion teams, and I just don't see MLB. I don't see a scenario anywhere where they go back to Oakland. I just don't see it. No. And I hate to say that. I don't want to. I don't. I mean that. I don't like to say that because I know it hurts people, but I just don't see it.
No.
I think MLB hates Oakland.
That ship has sailed. There's a new mayor. There are new politicians. Yep. Soon there will be a new commissioner.
And it'll be just it won't even be a thought. It's just not in MLB's plans for expansion. It's just
not.
Can
I say something? I've been critical of Rob Manfred. I will say about Rob Manfred, I 100% agree with, and I 100% agreed with those rule changes about speeding up the game, about eliminating the shift, about increasing the base size. Every one of those moves, except the phantom runner in extra innings, every one of those other moves were done to fix the game and bring the game back to where it was in our childhood. We showed up and it was a 2.5-hour game. The guy got in the box, the guy got on the rubber, and we saw baseball. There was no delay. There wasn't Camilo Doval 45 seconds between pitches and Nomar Garcia Parra 45 seconds between getting in and out of the box. So what Manfred did, and I wrote this before the first game under all these new rules, what he did was bring the game back to our youth to fix the game. And I would say the game changed because once analytics took over the game, the pitchers were told, hey, slow down. The less you pitch or the more you wait between pitches, the more recovery you have and the more possibility you can, throw 102 every 40 seconds instead of every 18 seconds. And they also said, okay, everyone get over to the right side of the field when a lefty hits. So the shortstop is over there and the third baseman's playing shortstop, and it just looked goofy. It wasn't baseball like we knew it as a kid. Yeah. And he said, enough of that. You got to stay there and you got to stay there. So that was good. And then he made the bases bigger and you could only have 2 or 3 pickoffs. And what that did, it's supposed to elevate. The Giants haven't learned this yet, but it's supposed to elevate the running game. And so, promoting more steals and a quicker pace game and more athletic game, which is what we had in our childhood. So for all that stuff, Mr. Manfred, I think you did a heck of a job.
Yes, you did. Yep.
But on the A's, I won't go there.
No, it's it's too bad, but I just don't see it happening anywhere. So I want to wrap up this this great conversation with John Shea, and I want to get a quick comment from you about Willie Mays. Of course, Willie's been gone for a little while now, unfortunately, but I think some people know it, but I don't know that they know the depth of it. The relationship that John Shea had with Willie Mays was there was very few people that were as tight, and there was very few people that Willie let in as much as he did with you, John. And I thought it would be kind of a fun way to end the show with just your feelings about Willie. I know he's been gone for a couple years now, but to know as you go on in your life and you're going to retire at some point, and to know that you had an extra special relationship with maybe the greatest player of all time. I mean, that's about as good as it gets for somebody in the media that does what you do.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I would say, first of all, Willie Mays called me a friend, which blows my mind. We're not supposed to be friends with those we cover. But if he's your hero, let's make an exception, right?
Yeah,
Because I
absolutely.
grew up here. I watched him play in the late 60s, early 70s. You know, we tried to emulate him and hit like him and walk like him and do everything like him, and nobody could. And went to San Diego to work at some newspapers and go to school, and then came back up here in '88. And that was 2 years after he returned to the Giants. Al Rosen and Bob Lurie brought him back after, you remember the story, Bowie Kuhn brilliantly kicked him out of the game because of association with gamblers. He just worked for a casino and played golf and signed autographs.
He was shaking hands with people, right?
Shaking hands with people because they didn't give him a pension. They hardly paid him. But so he was making like $50,000 a year working at Bally's in New Jersey. And so Bowie Kuhn kicks him out of the game 5 minutes after he goes to the Hall of Fame in 1979. And then Peter Ubroth comes along in '85 after he runs the '84 Olympics in LA. And first thing he does is bring Willie back. And Mickey, he did the same thing with Mickey Mantle. So that was like '85, and the Giants call in '86. So he's back in the organization. 2 years later, I come back to the Bay in '88, and I'm just a punk reporter in Candlestick Park and the Coliseum, working both teams. And whenever Mays spoke, and it happened often, I was just all eyes and ears, because why wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
And I wrote about him as much as I could. And I'm thinking, what's Willie Mays doing here? You know, what am I doing here? And in 2000, the Chronicle made me, after the merge with the Examiner, the national baseball writer. So that allowed me to step back and kind of analyze and dig deeper and write more about the guys in the history, and that included Mays. And I wrote about him a lot, and he must have appreciated it or respected it because he kept talking to me, and I'd call him up. And
you didn't piss him off. See, you did good, right?
But by the way, if anybody could have called him up, because everyone knew that he lived in this town, everyone knew the area code, everyone knew the prefix, and everyone knew his phone number was going to be 2424. So everybody, if they thought about it for a minute, had his phone number, and he always picked up. And he was always in the clubhouse. And it's like no other Hall of Famer picks up their phone whenever you call. No other Hall of Famer spent every day in the clubhouse, spring training and regular season home games like Willie Mays. McCovey did to an extent, sometimes Cepeda, but Mays all the time. And I think 05, 06, I asked him about a book project, and he said, I would like to see this in classrooms. You didn't say yes or no, which meant to me, yes, okay, let's go down that path. And right away, I started interviewing people like Alvin Dark, who was in his 90s, just in case I ever did write a book. So I have all these little mini cassettes with Alvin Dark.
Wow.
He was his teammate in New York, his manager in San Francisco. And remember, he oversaw, he was divisive, divided the clubhouse, in the early 60s, the most diverse clubhouse in the majors, and he divided it, and he was fired after 64. But then there's a roundabout story to that. Anyway, not till like 2018 did we consummate a deal, and I had already done so many interviews with him and to others about him. And anyway, it was a project of a lifetime to write the book 24, which came out in May of 2020. But a couple of times along the way, he called me friend. Like that was your point. Friend. It's a friend. Willie Mays' friend. You know, I'd love to be, but when he says it to me, that solidifies it. And it was on the Greg Papa show, Chronicle Live, when I was in Murph's office with Willie and Murph, and Papa comes in. Mike Murphy, the clubhouse legend for the Giants all those years, 60 years. And I was just in the room, and then Papa walks in and say, "Hey, Willie, when are you going to be on my show?" You know, because he had asked him many times, be on my Chronicle Live show. So Willie points to me and says, I'll go on if he comes on with me. And I'm thinking,
Me?
who else is here?
Is he talking to
Murph? So, hey, you know what? I guess the trust factor, because Willie didn't trust a lot of people. And I was lucky, fortunate, and thrilled, and still pinching myself that he trusted me. And then we went on the Cron Live show, and 60 minutes turned into 90 minutes. And we went all over the 5 tools. And at the very end, Papa asks Willie about Barry in the Hall of Fame. And Willie says, that's I can't answer that. I don't vote. The writers vote. And then Papa said, well, we got a writer right here. He points to me. And Willie looks at me and says, that's not a writer. That's my friend.
Really? Wow.
And I'm going to hum.
Yeah.
So
it's on
anyway,
tape.
I'm tearing up now. But anyway,
that's tremendous, man.
The fact that he allowed me over to his house to interview him about 100 and some hours for the purpose of the book. And it was sometimes 2 hours of interviews and just 5 hours of hanging out. And you know, because he liked the conversation. He respected the fact that I knew a little something about him. So I could talk with him on his level. Well, I shouldn't say that. Nobody's on his level. But I was over there the day Jeter was inducted into the Hall of Fame. You know, and the greatest ever I'm sitting with, watching the induction of the Hall of Fame, because Willie couldn't make it that year. And Willie, under his breath, like all the veterans do when a young guy gets inducted, hurry up, Jeter. You know, that's what he said.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he was thinking the same thing if he would have been there sitting behind, right? Hurry it up a little. Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, John, I mean, I have a lot of respect for you for many different reasons, but I also think that's one of the coolest things about you is that you had such a great relationship with him. So, you know what? You're going to hold on to that tight, and you should, because not too many people have it. So,
no, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And you know what? I appreciate you coming on. We've been talking for an hour and a half, and I could go on further with you, but I don't want to put you to sleep or anything like that. It's us older guys. It's getting late for us old guys, John. Gee whiz.
That's Lon Simmons' old line. He said when fans went up to him and said, "Hey, I went to sleep listening to your broadcast." He said, "Well, that's what I'm known for, putting people to sleep."
Putting people to sleep.
You know?
Yeah. Hey, John, thank you very much for joining us. Let's
thanks,
do it
man.
again. Some more during the off season. I think there's going to be a lot of Giants baseball stuff going on in the next 3-4 months. So I would love to have you back on in a month or so, and we'll kick some more stuff around.
Thanks a lot, Glenn. Enjoyed
All
it.
right.
Thanks for having me.
All right, John Shea from the San Francisco Standard. He's a good man, and he's been doing this for a long, long time, and he's been doing a good job for a long, long time. So I really appreciate him coming by, talking baseball like that. And that's what I want this show to be all about, talking baseball, talking Giants baseball, talking some other sports as we move forward. That's what we're going to turn this thing into. So hope you enjoyed it. Remember, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you to the super chat people, the last dive bar. I appreciate you guys. You know how I feel about you. And most of all, just thanks for listening and being part of the show tonight, because it was a good show. It was a lot of fun. So show is brought to you by Tilden Properties. By investing with Tilden Properties, you'll see quarterly dividends and equity buildup in the real estate market. Give Tilden Property a call if you want to invest. They're looking for investors always. Now's a good time to get in at 925-209-8558. Tilden Properties, as I'm telling you, they've been making money for their clients since 2008. That's Tilden Properties. We're also brought to you by the Carrick Real Estate Team. They've been helping families buy and sell homes across the Bay Area with a legacy of client-first service since 1978. That's the Carrick Real Estate Team. Give them a call at 925-548-4132 and go to their website at carrickteam.com. And we are also brought to you by Valone Insurance. Are you tired of being overcharged for your property insurance? If you are, then give Valone Insurance a call. They have multiple options for your home and landlord properties. Save big money on your property insurance. Call Kyle or Ron at Valone Insurance, 925-433-8271. Thanks for sticking with me tonight, folks. I appreciate it. I know it's been a long show, but you guys have hung in there, And it's been a lot of fun. We'll be back with you in a couple days with another edition of the Glen Kuiper Show. Join me, subscribe, like, and we're going to continue to grow this thing as we have been doing. So awesome night. Thanks again. And we'll see you in a couple nights right back here on the Glen Kuiper Show. Have a good night, everybody.